I'm Erick Baker, this is Tennessee Uncharted. And I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. Oh, there we go. I'm Erick Baker, and I've lived in Tennessee my entire life. However, for the last decade, touring the world, I've only seen it passing by from a windshield. But finally, Tennessee is calling me back where I belong. There's a place you've never been that's right where you want to be. I want to rediscover how great my home state is, and I want you to come with me. Uncharted. There's some places you visit that from the moment you get there, you can't wait to leave. And then there are places that from the moment you leave, you can't wait to get back. Sparta, Tennessee and the surrounding area was one of those places I couldn't wait to get back to. Named after the ancient Greek city, Sparta nearly became the capital of Tennessee, but lost to Nashville by only one vote. Today, Sparta may not have the Batman building, but it does have an abundance of outdoor recreational opportunities and natural beauty, which is what's brought us back for a second look. After spending some time here in season 1, we realized that we'd barely scratched the surface of all this area has to offer. So in this episode of Tennessee Uncharted, we're revisiting Sparta and actually going below the surface to dig a little deeper and enjoy some of the other local attractions. Today I'm going in a cave for the very first time to observe a TWRA survey of bats for white nose syndrome, a disease that's devastating the bat population in North America. And the loss of these little bats has the potential to cause some really big problems. Our journey started with a mile-long hike to the mouth of the cave through a private landowner's property. But the mouth of this cave is really nothing more than just a glorified crack. Actually, I had to get on my back to squeeze through. And it's definitely something that I could have easily walked right by without even seeing it. But apparently this is a very popular cave. There was graffiti everywhere, which shocked me to see how many people had been down there. I could instantly see the impact that people have on these ecosystems and the part that they're playing in the spread of white nose syndrome. But it's not the graffiti or the empty bottles and beer cans that's spreading this disease. It can be spread by something as simple as a footstep.
So this survey is part of a huge effort that we're just a part of. We have many partners from the academic community to the Nature Conservancy and NGOs and federal partners and other land managers that are all doing surveys across the state. And each year we try to do about 60 cave surveys or 70. And we're really using a snapshot of the population in those caves to determine what the status is of all the bats in Tennessee.
Okay.
So just 70 caves out of 10,000 a year is what we're trying to kind of get a picture of. The epicenter is around Albany, New York, and it was discovered there in 2006. And so that was the epicenter. And since 2006...
That's ground zero.
That's ground zero.
Okay,
Since 2006, it's ballooned out into much of Canada, and it's followed the karst areas down the Appalachian chain. And now in Tennessee, we have 46 counties that are confirmed white nose syndrome positive. And to put that into perspective, we only have 78 counties that actually have caves.
Wow.
So close to 60% of the counties in Tennessee that have caves are white nose syndrome positive.
And a lot of those caves are privately owned land, I guess?
Yeah, so there are 10,000 caves, or more than 10,000 caves in Tennessee, and the vast majority of those are privately owned. And so we work really hard to create good relationships with landowners and ask permission, you know, to visit their caves and check on the bats.
The deeper in I go into this cave, I can't help but think about the big mountain that's up above us. You can see how this could freak some people out. There's currently no cure for white nose syndrome. And the only true tool the state currently has to combat this disease is to close off caves completely. So right now, in an attempt to use them as a refuge, all caves on state and federal land are closed. But due to the fact that there are so many caves on private land, it's going to take a partnership between landowners and TWRA to win the battle against white nose syndrome. tell me what it's actually doing to the bats and how it's affecting them.
So when the bats come into the cave for hibernation, they'll reduce their metabolic rate and they'll also repress their immune system. And so in the cave environment, once white nose syndrome is in the cave, the spores from the fungus will actually get on the bat. The spores of the fungus will actually grow hyphae. And these hyphae invade the skin cells of the bat. And basically, what it does is it causes the bat to arouse more than it naturally should. It actually burns its fat reserves at twice the rate if it has white nose syndrome than a healthy bat would. And so it'll, emerge from the cave early, and it'll either die of starvation or dehydration or exposure to cold weather and there are no bugs out in the winter.
Do I have anything in my nose?
Yes.
White nose. That's not nose syndrome.
It's not nose syndrome.
Today we saw a lot of amazing things, but sadly not many bats. And of the bats that we saw, many of them were suffering from white nose syndrome. In 2012, TWRA surveyed over 400 bats in this cave. Today, we only found 42. So if you're counting at home, that's 90% of the bat population in this cave dead in just 3 years. So as far as your expectations for today, now that we've come out, where does that fall in line?
Well, it's obviously not what we had hoped for, but it's about what we had expected. We continue to see declines, and we hope that it plateaus out eventually.
It's not as bad here as it is up in the Northeast. They have 90 to 100% mortality in the caves in New York and Pennsylvania, so hopefully in Tennessee we have a better chance than up north, and if the bats do emerge the cave, they do have a possibility of finding an insect or two on the landscape to eat. This is the worst wildlife disease in our lifetime. It's hard to comprehend. So we don't know the full ramifications of it yet. Hopefully they can build an immunity to it, but that may not happen in our lifetime either.
I mean, you guys are going to great lengths to help save the bat population, and really
Thanks
appreciate
for coming out
it
and
a lot.
Thanks for coming. We enjoyed it.
Cool. Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, when we were here before, we barely scratched the surface of all this area has to offer. And what we discovered is that the natural beauty you can see above the ground is only the beginning. If you've ever driven down I-40 from Nashville to Knoxville, there's a pretty good chance you might have seen a road sign or two telling you to see Cumberland Caverns. Well, over the years, I've passed these signs hundreds of times, but the closest I've ever come to seeing Cumberland Caverns is reading their name on the sign. But today, for the first time ever, Tennessee Uncharted is going subterranean on an adventure that's been 3.5 million years in the making. With more than 32 miles of caves and underground passageways, incredible underground rock formations, beautiful underground waterfalls, and gleaming pools, I promise that this place is unlike anywhere you've ever been. I instantly felt like I was on another planet, or like I was an extra on the set of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Thankfully, though, there weren't any booby traps, golden idols, or giant boulders to run from. We signed up for the Parts Unknown Spelunking Tour, which they describe as a high-adventure caving trip involving high climbs, ladders, ropes, and a lot of guts. However, there are a few tight squeezes along the way, so I'd recommend not bringing too much gut. I mean, how did this all come? I mean, has this always just been sitting here waiting for someone to stumble upon it, or?
Well, the cave itself was discovered probably first around 1810. It was open for commercial tours July 4th, 1956. We have about 1.5 mile round trip. That's walking from the gift shop all the way through the cave and back out that we offer on a daily tour. And that's what really gets the main impact of people here at the cave. The cool thing about caving is the exploration. Going places that no one's ever gone before, kind of like going to the moon almost, There's some caves that are traveled, like Cumberland Caverns, and the commercial part is traveled really well, but I can take you places in here that honestly very few people have been. And it's amazing to go into a cave for the first time, to walk into a room where you see nothing but just loose dirt and no footprints. To walk or rappel off of a bluff into a hole in the ground and get to the bottom and look up 300 feet and know that you're one of few people that have been there, is pretty amazing. It's just the feeling, it kind of makes your hair stand just
totally. The final frontier.
Yeah, sure.
This is the final frontier,
yeah,
man.
You never know.
Wow. Now, in my lifetime, I've done a lot of hiking. I've hiked all over the Smokies, I've hiked in the Rockies, I've hiked down into the Grand Canyon. And for me, Cumberland Caverns ranks right up there at the top.
The cave system is roughly 27 mapped miles of cave, and probably 30, 32 known miles of cave that haven't completely been explored. And there's tons of passage that people just got tired and they turned around and went back. So.
Man, I'm invigorated, man. I mean, this is an experience like I've never had. So, it's great exercise. I mean, it's adventure. It's kind of terrifying a little bit, but in a good way. So, I'm loving it, man. Loving it way more than I thought I would. The grass around here may look green, but if you look close, you can see that it's actually a distinct shade of blue. For the ground grows more than just crops in this part of the country. Cultivated deep into the soil here is the unmistakable sound of music, but not just any music, bluegrass music. And for many years, the hills and valleys of this area have echoed with front porch pickers and singers, but the echoes have never been as loud as they are today. But if you're looking to find the root of this current roots music movement that fills the hills and valleys here, it turns out that you'll have to look a little deeper, about 333 feet deeper to be exact. Because Cumberland Caverns isn't just the home of world-famous sights, the sound's here just as celebrated. Here we are, 300 feet in a cave, 1,500 feet into this thing. Whose bright idea was it to make a concert series in a cave?
So for years, I had been driving by these signs that say, see Cumberland Caverns, see Cumberland Caverns. So for whatever reason, I said, let's go see Cumberland Caverns.
Yeah, man.
I ain't never been in a cave in my life before then. And so we go through the tour and we come down and get right under that chandelier. And I said to the guide, I said, do y'all ever have live music down here? And she said, no, but that'd be a good old idea. Came back the next week and kind of had the whole idea. The name, Bluegrass Underground, got some sound engineers to come down and a band, and they kind of confirmed what I had hoped and suspected, which was that the acoustics of this environment are sublime.
And you'll see people watching the show and they're digging the music, and then you just see this break. And they look up the ceiling, they look at the surrounds, there's this magical, like you said, Aladdin's magic cavern. And they're just transfixed by the place that they're in. And then you see them just get right back into the music. And it's like this sort of a double show going on. Caves the co-star.
Yep.
Yeah. Walk me through some of the details and some of the obstacles you're having to overcome putting on a concert in a cave.
So there's house power here. They had a concession stand. They had bathrooms in here, restrooms, but it's not nearly enough to power all these lights. So we bring in generated power. To do that, we have to run it down into the cave, and that's almost a mile of 4/0 wire. Every 50 feet weighs 100 pounds, so it's tons of wire that comes down here to power the place.
There was a reason we won the Emmy for technical achievement, and we were nominated for 2 or 3 different years, and we didn't win. And I said, what, has somebody gone and done a show on the moon that I didn't hear about?
This is a natural thing, and I love that, man.
Yeah.
And we're right here in the backwoods of Tennessee.
It's Tennessee.
Which is...
It's so Tennessee because the best things about Tennessee is its natural beauty and its musical culture.
Yeah,
and those two things entwine 333 feet underground where we are. So it's a joy to be able to celebrate that and literally shine a light in the darkness on all these acts and all this music. And so we're going after things that are authentic, that are real.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Bluegrass Underground, 3 million years in the making.
I couldn't come back to this area and not revisit the site of my greatest heartbreak, my greatest loss of season 1. There are many moments in my life that I can't remember, and then there are moments that I'd like to forget. These are the moments that keep me up at night, the moments that swim in the currents of time, yet never seem to wash away. In case you missed it, last season I landed a muskie, the fish of 10,000 casts on this very river. But sadly, just as I got it up to the boat, it somehow avoided one of the biggest nets ever made as it jumped off my hook and swam to safety. For me, this is one of those moments I'd like to forget. So somewhere in these waters is a muskie with my name on it, and I've returned to reclaim my pride as well as my heart. However, I'm changing my approach. Hopefully this time, fishing on top of a Jackson stand-up paddleboard, nothing will stand in the way of me snagging my elusive muskie. So Jace, I have to admit I'm getting a little frustrated. And I feel like I'm just dancing from back and forth from side to side. And you're staying right in the middle. I don't know what you're anchored to, but
Well, part of what it is when you're throwing these big baits, if you notice, they're pulling you all over the place when you're reeling. Every time you jerk, you're going right to where you cast it to.
Okay.
Learn to use that to your advantage. You'll see my boat start moving, as I'm going, and I'll start working that way. Well, just kind of every now and then, pitch your cast back out the other way. Catch that other side.
You're a much better caster than I am, though. I am not very good at multitasking. At the beginning, it was all I could do to stay afloat and in the middle of the river. And I'm by no means a fishing expert, but even I know the fishing is going to suffer some when every cast is actually more of an attempt not to lose your balance and fall in the river. But as the day moved on, I started to get the hang of it. And by the end, the fun of the float ended up being a great distraction for the lack of bites. My second chance didn't quite turn out the way I'd planned. But I guess that's why they say third time's a charm. As important as it is to expand your horizons, sometimes you need to stop by somewhere familiar to get your bearings. So in search of a new direction, I've retraced a few of my steps from last season back to Calf Killer Brewing Company. However, it's not the pop of a top that's brought me here today, but a pop of another kind.
This is a 1964 bread delivery truck. The food trucks were the rage a couple years ago. That started the rage. We thought we need to get out to the masses, but we don't want to have a square body food truck like everybody else has. So we wanted something different. We wanted to make a hot rod food truck.
Yeah.
This had, the body lines, the rounded front end and stuff like that. So it was really what we were looking for.
It looks amazing. And I mean, it is eye-popping.
Yeah, nice.
Yes. Like most humans with a heartbeat, I love popcorn. I'm the guy in April and May who's not afraid to reach down in the big Christmas popcorn tin for a big handful of whatever's left. And at our house, no movie is complete until we fill our old turquoise Tupperware bowl with some of that light and fluffy buttery gold. All that I ask is that you save some of the slightly burned ones for me. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I know popcorn. Or at least, I thought I did. Where did hot rod popcorn begin?
Well, we love popcorn, that was a common denominator. I got, as a joke, because I love popcorn so much, an actual real big full-size popcorn machine for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get this phone call and he's like, I got this popcorn machine, I really don't have anywhere to put it.
Right.
Can I keep it in your garage? And I was like, does it work?
Right.
At the time, I was in the middle of restoring a hot rod.
Okay.
So I had all of the car parts on one side of the garage, the car itself was on the other side of the garage, the popcorn machine was in the middle.
Yeah.
So we started making popcorn. And we're just experimenting around and, having a good time with it, just, hanging out. We started hitting on some flavors. And I think at about the same time, we were both like, jokingly, man, we could sell this.
I mean, how more true to what you guys are all about, and that's...
In the garage with cars and popcorn.
Yeah,
at the same time,
literally. I mean, literally.
Hot popcorn, hot rod popcorn. Get it while it's hot, don't let it get cold. I like you.
All right, thank you. I like you too. Enjoy. Actually, can I have just, I need to taste it. Is that all right? Do you mind? Tennessee Uncharted has never tasted so good. What's the future look like?
The car shows is a huge thing because we figured this truck could be in a car show.
You could definitely pull in, pay your $20, $25 to enter your car, show, make popcorn at the same time.
Totally.
Make popcorn, make money. Everybody loves popcorn. So
Yeah.
we're just trying to find a way to make it a little more exciting.
Right.
We actually infuse our flavor into the popcorn. So as it's cooking, getting hot in the kettle, the spices are going in, and it actually kind of smokes
Infuses.
and burns
Yeah, I
it
mean,
in.
it is
and
in
so
there.
it's
Yeah, it's
different.
cooked in it.
It's different.
Right.
Completely different than what you'll find anywhere else.
A lot of great ideas are popped out of people's garages every day, and hot rod popcorn is no exception. Each bag is handmade with only the freshest kernels and seasonings. And after trying some of their inventive flavors, I must say that this popcorn has got some real horsepower, some get up and go. Built out of a love for hot rods, spicy food, and my favorite snack, hot rod popcorn just made movie night at the Baker House a whole lot tastier. And hot rod popcorn, get you some now. There's no doubt that art can do many things. Art allows us to express ourselves. It allows us to communicate, to feel understood. Art has the power to heal and connect. These facts are undeniable. However, the great debate lies in the question, what is art? So Thor, we are gonna turn this ball of mud into this. Is that what we're really gonna do today?
Well, it's a process that we refer to as ordinary magic.
Okay. I love magic. I love magic.
Happens daily here.
All right.
So that's what we're going to do. Now, this is a very special mug because this is Calf Killer, the Grassroots Ale, which is their flagship ale. This is a Calf Killer Grassroots Ale mug, and what we're going to do today that we don't do on our regular mugs is we are actually going to infuse the water with grassroots.
Okay.
So
many would argue that a pottery studio is one of a skilled laborer, not an artist. But after just a couple of steps through the front door of the Fragrant Mushroom, I must say that I respectfully disagree. How much time is in each of these mugs, would you say?
the process, if rushed from beginning to end, takes about 10 days. That doesn't mean we're dealing with it for 10 days. A lot of it has to do with drying. I would like to say no more than 2 hours. I mean, full time, but because we do them in large batches, it's just real hard to tell.
Mm-hmm. And how many steps total?
On the mug should be around 17 when we're dealing with logos and stuff like
17 steps. Thor McNeil is an artist, and for over 20 years, he's been making the world's most affordable pottery, separating his work from the rest with high-quality craftsmanship, forms that follow function, glazes that alone are a work of art, and all at a reasonable price.
We lift this up and we say, wow, that's some pretty stuff, and there's your grassroots.
Oh, man! Check that out. Dude, that looks awesome, man.
And see, that's where the magic comes in. I don't know where that came from.
Abracadabra. That looks amazing. If If you take a look around, it's not hard to see that Sparta truly is a special place. It's like a really good song where each time you hear it, you catch something new. It's a place where exhaust pipes lead to popcorn, and where the dark silence of a cave can shine a light of sound on some of the best music in the world. It's a place where drinking a cup of coffee can be considered performance art, where diseases can be defeated and broken hearts can be healed. It's a place where anything is possible. Simply put, this place is Tennessee.